I will be making a video about true point guards. I'm tired of that myth. That myth will get debunked this week.
Wait, can you tell me what the myth is, though, before your video?
There's no such thing as a true point guard. I don't understand why that position.
When they say true, they mean traditional. They mean traditional. And there is such a thing as a traditional point guard.
Lo, you trying to sell me that there's no traditional point guard ever in NBA history? So what exactly is the primary ball handler's job? Tell us here
to win ball games.
Actually, it's not because the
tradition.
It is.
I'm not going to be.
There is a traditional point guard. The traditional point guard. So when people started playing basketball in the 70s and 80s, they said a point guard brings the ball up the court, initiates the offense, and facilitates for others.
People started playing basketball in the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah,
just so you know,
why y'all deciding to start in the 70s?
The point guard. The reason why he was the point guard.
When I started,
let me make sure I'm understanding. The point guard. The reason why he played point guard because he couldn't shoot as well as the two guard. The two guard played the two guard because he couldn't handle it as well as the point guard. That's why. So the traditional point guard, the traditional point guard logic. For you to say that it doesn't exist, that means that Magic doesn't exist. That means that Stockton doesn't. That means that Stockton doesn't.
Jerry West wasn't a traditional point guard.
He was not. Jerry West was a combo guard.
How can that not be a traditional point guard if he came before the players that y'all are talking about right now? He came before them.
Because the two things are mutually exclusive, bro. You can have a definition for a traditional point guard does this, and then you have people who just don't do that.
You bring up the traditional point guard is Bob Cousy. That's what they related to, Bob Cousy.
Yes, but there were also players
just like Lo, a traditional center plays with his back to the basket.
We don't say that though. Nobody says traditional center though. Nobody says traditional power
forward. Everybody talks about the traditional five-man. Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Lo.
That's what it means.
Who do we compare Embiid to?
Hakeem.
And what is Hakeem?
Hakeem, yes.
And what is Hakeem?
Hakeem is a center.
No, he's a traditional five-man. He plays with his back to the basket. That's what we compare him to.
With
that being said, we don't
block shots.
So let me ask the question: what is a traditional shooting guard then?
A traditional shooting guard.
That's my point.
They don't say that. People don't. I never heard that one before. I don't hear for many positions. I don't. I hear for point guards and I hear for centers.
When we talk about the true position or the traditional, we absolutely one for every position. There's the traditional what the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 man does.
Chill. And the reason why we have the traditional point guard and the traditional center because that's where the game was. It was built around the 1 and around the 5 man. The 2 guard, again, that's the dude who couldn't shoot it. I mean, who couldn't handle it as well as the point guard. He couldn't handle it as well as the point guard. And then it got raised where he could handle it, but he could still shoot it, and he stayed at the 2 guard. And then he got better.
Traditionally, 3 was a slasher.
Right. And then
Go.
And then by this low, I'm baffled. Actually,
no, I want that kid to explain because
and then when we move forward, when we get to the 70s and we get to the 80s, the skill set improved. But we still had the traditional point guard who handled the basketball because the 2 guard still shot the basketball more. That was his job. And then we had.
And if I may, sorry. If I may, part of this was done because when you started to look at players, and I'm talking before NBA, and you looked at their skill sets, you had to put them into a position where they would start from, right? If you saw someone who wasn't necessarily that skilled, but they were big and strong and did the dirty work, they typically were put as your 4. That was your traditional power forward. Now, as their skill sets developed and stuff, you moved them into different things and made them do more stuff, sure. But that's why you had those traditional things. It was how you taught the game. If you were a good ball handler, you were a point guard. If you were tall and with your back to the basket, you were a center. That's what you did. And then it grew from that. But you have to have those defined roles to grow from. You can't just go willy-nilly from nowhere. You have to start somewhere. And that's where you start from.
So what is Bird? He's not a slasher. You see, he's a slasher. You think Bird's a slasher?
He's a small forward.
He's a small forward.
But he said the traditional way of a small forward is to be a slasher.
Right.
A slasher, yeah, and then it turned into a Swiss Army knife that does everything.
Wait a minute. Wait. Hold. To answer your question,
for me, a small forward is the most versatile position.
That's small forward is the most
and not to answer your question, Lo. Yes, Bird was a slasher. He just was a less athletic slasher than Elgin Baylor. Yes, but he was still a slasher.
If you watch Bird, you see him slash to the basket slowly and pass.
Why are we fighting that? Why are we fighting that?
Because Curry also handles the balls and facilitates, but you know what he predominantly does.
He's also
predominantly guard.
Bird was not a predominantly slasher. That's not how you would identify. He was a post player predominantly.
Joe, no, he was not a post player. No, McHale and Paris were predominantly the post players.
He was not.
Larry Bird played on the perimeter. What are you talking about, Lo?
He started in the perimeter.
Are you serious right now?
He started on the perimeter.
He played on the perimeter.
He started his career on the perimeter as a power forward.
Yeah, if you look at their offensive, if you look at the Celtics' offensive sets, Parrish started down low. Kevin McHale was in the high post, and Bird was on the perimeter.
Even in college,
that's how they started
when he was in college.
Give it up, bro.
When he started his career as a
Give it
power
up,
forward,
it's crazy.
when he started his career as a power forward, he was on the perimeter.
He played on the perimeter. When he played in college, he played on the perimeter at the 3.
When he started his career as a power forward in Celtics, he was on the perimeter.
When he played in college, he played the 3. That was on the perimeter. He did not start his career as a power forward. So let's dead that logic.
Who was the starting power forward for the Celtics in 1980 then?
Who was the starting power forward for the Celtics? If I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Cedric Maxwell.
In the 80s?
No, I'm sorry. That's not true. It was what you call it.
In the 80s.
I'm sorry.
No, 1980. In 1980.
Rookie year?
Right. His rookie year, I don't think it was Bird started. I don't think he started at the 4, though. I think he started at if he did start at the 4, he got Okay, if he did start at the 4, then he got moved to the 3.
ML Carr was the small forward that in his rookie year, and then he moves out. And then
Bird moved, and when they get before.
They did start him at the 4. You are,
and then when Cedric Maxwell gets moved up, and then Kevin McHale turns into who he turns into. McHale becomes the 4, and Bird moves to the 3. That's the way that works.
So what I'm asking is, when Bird was when he was a power forward, he was on the perimeter. Is that what y'all telling me?
He played both.
Bird played on the perimeter.
Absolutely,
he did not play primarily on the box. No, he did not.
So then I would ask: is that a traditional? Is that what power forward?
If you're asking, is Bird a traditional small forward or
power forward?
No, he was not a traditional power forward. No, he was not.
Okay.
In the years he played power forward, he was not a traditional power forward.
Where did he play most of his career? He played most of his career at the 3. He played it in college and he played it in the pros.
But the point I'm making though is that when it comes to other positions, we don't do that. Like when we talk about Bird, especially in the beginning stage of his career, no one is not making another category to rank him as a player. They just put him as a power forward. When it comes to Jerry,
Bird is a small forward.
That's what they put him.
I'll say in the beginning of his career. When it came to Jerry West, he was just out there handling the ball, initiating the offense. Even though he led that team, or maybe not led it, him and Elgin Baylor were the 2 top scorers on that team.
Elgin Baylor led the team in field goal attempts, and West led the team in assists. He was the primary ball handler. Jerry West was.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't traditional point guards. Just because these people that you're naming weren't traditional, like it's like is LeBron a traditional anything?
Like
does everything. But that's my point.
You have your exceptions. Here's
the way you got to look at it, Lo. Here's how you got to look at it. If you're explaining it to a 10-year-old, and since I coach a 10-year-old team, I can tell you, and you're explaining this is what a point guard does, this is what a shooting guard does, this is what a small forward does, you have to say something. And what you do is you revert to what those traditional roles are. Now, you're going to grow. Again, you're going to grow from there, but there are traditional things that they do, and that's how you start it, and you go from there. So there are traditional versions of every position, but you're right, not everybody plays them traditionally, nor should they, especially today. No one plays a traditional role, which is great. That's why the NBA is so phenomenal to watch right now. You got 1961 playing point, you got point guards posting up. It's beautiful.
In 1961, Elgin Baylor led that team in assists. So somehow, some
1 year?
So for that 1 year, was he the point guard?
Is leading the team in assists make you the point guard?
But I was told Draymond Green was the point guard of the Warriors.
That's what I hear as well.
And I also hear that Steph Curry is the point guard. That's what I heard. Right. So
because Steph Curry is the point guard.
I'm still making a video because nothing is convincing me right now. I just want to keep knowing that
you just don't want to admit it.
There's nothing.
Wait till y'all finish the acting. So when you hear traditional point guard, what do you think of?
I think people being lied to for like 30 years. Because
explain that. Hold on, because I'm listening. I don't know if I'll see a video. Please send it to me, whatever. But I really want to understand this landscape. So what lied to how?
Like, because if the argument is a traditional point guard is supposed to be the guy who initiates offense, set it up, who's not a volume scorer, he just kind of sets the table for everybody. Is that a role in which they can handle? Yes. But the reality is when you go throughout NBA history, the first great point guards in the league, they were volume scorers. That is a fact.
No, Bob Cousy was a volume scorer.
That's the only one. Jerry West was a Jerry West. You're going back. Stop going to the 80s. Start in the 60s and 70s, where the basketball started. Start in the 60s, 50s, and 60s.
No, but that's not when jumping
all the way to 80s.
That's not when basketball started.
Hold on.
That's what started in the 80s. It started in the 80s.
No, but I'm saying throughout the years we've seen traditional roles that were started when James Naismith set up the damn game. You want to go back to then? You want me to give you some of those things?
I could go down eras. Isaiah Thomas is a traditional point guard, and he was a volume scorer.
Why? But what about the other players before them? That's what I'm asking.
Cousy, I don't know stats with Bob Cousy. I would think he looked like
Bob Cousy averaged like 18 a game, something like that.
But who were the other guards of that era, though?
Hal Greer,
Lenny Wilkins.
Would you consider Hal Greer a traditional
point guard? Yeah, because his job was to get the ball to Chamberlain. That was his job as a lead guard.
So low, I'm confused.
And if I'm not mistaken, Hal Greer actually was not the point guard. He was a two guard, if I'm not mistaken, on that team.
Let me ask you a question, Low.
I got to double check, but I'm almost 100%
nothing like a traditional point guard. So why do they think like they say point guards? Why is it a statement? Many people say it. Everybody up here heard it. Point guards of the 90s can't play in this era. It's never based on
I believe
talent.
they can. I don't know what you get.
To answer your question, in 1955, the point guard for the Warriors was Jack George, who led their team in assists, and his job was to put the ball into Wilt. Yes, he was a traditional point guard.
Like it's a real thing.
But 55, Hal Greer wasn't in the league at that time.
Point guard.
I'm going back further because you want more.
Now you're more fluent.
Oh wow. 55, Wilt wasn't in the league either.
Yes, he was.
No, he wasn't. Wilt came in the league in 59.
Said in the chat, Clyde Frazier.
I want to even. Why am I back? Guy Rogers, I think that's his name. Guy Rogers was the. I think he.
You want me to go? You want me to go
remember correctly? So. Ron, I gotta go, B. Unfortunately.
Yeah, y'all will see my video. You will see the video.
I gotta get moving, Ron. Unfortunately, I want to keep this rolling, but I gotta go.
We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up.
Hello. Thursday at 9. Come on, Fluent and Chill. We'll teach you about traditional positions.
The video will probably be out by then.
Perfect. We can debunk it.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. Yeah, the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.